Hi everybody, Jo here again. How's your new week going? I hope it's going well and that you had a lovely weekend. Thanks for joining me in this journey. We're going through our Lavinia Calendar and this is the new one for 2026. And as you remember, I started mine last week with January and we did a lovely little design together. And as you know, I'm going off the design that Tracy's given us on the base of the page. And January had our lovely robins on. So February, and I'm just going to turn it over, we have featured at the base Double Trouble. Now, I love those little cheeky mice, as you know. So I've done a little bit of prep. And what I've done is I've popped myself some Lavinia low tack masking tape just around the design, just so it gives me a nice frame. And I also get myself a little piece of copy paper. This is a really good handy hint. Fold it in half and just pop it here. And it just means if you're going to lean on this, which to be honest you end up doing, you won't mark your calendar page. Now I'm going to show you the design I've come up with. Now, this is what I'm intending stamping in the space here. And I've gone, with it being February, I wanted to use Double Trouble, but also our lovely heart. And this is the small one. And I'm thinking romance, so I've brought in our lovely Replenish stencil. And I know you're going to ask, so the piece of card is 5 inches by 6.5 inches. And two reasons I do it on the card for me. Firstly, if you don't want to join in the calendar but you want to make a card design, you can see that this is a lovely topper to go on a card. But also, I've got to be honest, I'm just a bit, I worry, you know me, at the minute, I keep dropping things and I'm thinking if I was going to make a Horlicks of this, which could happen, what do? I can't take February out and not have February next year. So I'm thinking I could just glue this on top and nobody would ever know because you wouldn't tell them, would you? You know, my secret would be safe with you because I can trust you a lot, can't I? So, and also, it's a practice. So quite a few reasons there. I've also put a couple of bits of copy paper underneath, and for me this just gives me extra, well, it makes me feel better about my stamping, it gives me confidence, but also I just think if I was to go off the edges, it just protects the pages underneath. So, well, that's the plan, that's the idea. So I'm going to pop that there where I can look at it. And the stamping today, Versafine Clair, and I'm just coming in with Nocturne. So I'm going to start with the small heart first. And as I say, this copy of paper here is invaluable because it means I can lean and rest my acrylic block, and if there's any ink on the back of the block, it won't go on the finished design. Now, as you know, it's not ideal for the camera work, this, because the calendar is a nice size, so I'm hoping you can see everything okay, so please bear with me. So I'm going to put the heart roughly in the middle-ish, and it is just going to be an ish. Again, it's a handcrafted calendar, so we're going for ish. And give that a good press. Now, couple of years ago I used this, stamped it 3 times, sort of decoupaged it and made it 3D. It's a lovely, lovely stamp to do that with. Now, Double Trouble, I decided when I was doing this, it was easier to stamp Double Trouble and then add the foliage for them to stand on. But if you want to stamp the foliage first, it's totally up to you. I just found it was easy for me to position the mice first. So, because I'm thinking I need one up here, just shining a light, and again, silhouette. So give that ink just chance to soak into the lovely card. It's a lovely quality card in this calendar. Lovely. And then his mate. You need to, don't you, for double trouble? I wonder, have you got friends that fit these perfectly? I bet you have, you know. I keep calling our 2 little grandchildren, Elliot and Jensen, double trouble. And this one I'm thinking, let's just be shining the light up there. And again, give that ink time to just soak in. No point rushing it. And lift it cleanly off. Lovely. So, when I was looking for my foliage, there's a lovely set of stamps called Leaf Spray. And you get these 2 stamps. And I'm thinking this is lovely to stamp double trouble on. But when I looked, there was quite a lot of foliage here. And it didn't quite work well. So I actually went for this one. And that's where having a practice really helped. But as you know, I love doing foliage stamps coming in from the side. And it's nice because it's becoming quite a thing now. So, again, and because it's light foliage, this, I can just stamp over the light bulb. Now, the beauty of this is, if you wanted to add extra foliage, you could. So we've got all our mini leaves. You could add extra leaves, you could add berries. I'm just going to leave it as it is, but you could add extra. So again, we'll bring this one in here and just sort of about there. Now remember, if it ended up a little bit low, you've got a couple of choices. You could either extend the design with your black fine liner or just stamp again. And then you've got a couple of branches coming in. So there's always things we can do. Now, what we're going to do is give that a blot, just with another piece of copy paper. Remember, it's a slow drying ink. But what we've done is we've got the basis of our stamped design there. And also, watch out on your masking tape. Your ink will dry slow. It takes longer to dry on the masking tape. That's always worth remembering. So, to add the colour now with the elements, and I'm using my elements, I've gone for Sundance in the middle. Then I'm going to use some confetti, and I couldn't wait to see how the Sundance and confetti blended well together. And then some Merlot for around the edge. And it's a combination I've not used before, so it's nice to have a bit of a different combination. So, as always, now I've gone for a number 7 brush. I'm going to blend in the lid. And I'm going to start by adding some colour in the heart and almost using the stencil brush just to add the colour. And just concentrate on the area in the heart first, and then when I've got less ink on my brush, just bring some ink round. Now the same thing with the light bulbs. Concentrate on the light bulb, and then when there's less ink, blending in the lid, always getting that habit. So again, darker colour. And if you really wanted to intensify the colour, you can always go down to a number 3 brush. So when I've got less ink, I'm just going to bring that, so we've got a bit of that brightness. So the heart's in the middle, lit up. Now, I'm going to leave the lid off that. And I'm going to come in with my confetti now. Same thing, blend in the lid. And I'm going to start, just check you can see, I'm going to start in the corners, bottom corner, and just blend that confetti. Start in the corner and then come in to join that yellow. And I'm just going to do that on each corner. I always start in the corners because when you've got most ink on, it's going to be darker. And I know you know that, but if the corners are darker, it tends to frame the design better. And also if you go straight into the middle, if you've got too much ink on and you're going to get lines, it would just spoil it. So all these things help to minimise. So again, in that corner. And once you get in these habits, you know what's lovely? You don't even need to think about them. So now I've got less ink, it's easier to blend. So I'm going to go into where that yellow is. And then what I'm going to do is, in fact, I'm going to go to a larger brush, the number 9, the largest of the brushes now, and just come in with a little bit of yellow over where that pink is. I just want a nice subtle blend. So then in the pink, and this is where you do need to concentrate, because, you know, I am one of them, if I'm not careful, I can put the wrong brush in the wrong ink. And I just want to blend that area so that it's not obvious. I've got my darker yellow in the heart and on the light bulbs, but I just want that area there to be a lovely blend. And if I bring that up a little, can you see? So it's not obvious where the yellow finishes and that lovely pink begins. So we'll pop those lids on. I always think it's important to put the lid on and then you're not going to put your hand in the ink. And now to the Merlot, and it's a lovely colour this. And again, I'm just going to start in the corners and bring that ink into the middle. I don't want to go too far. So again, the next one in the corner and then up the side and along. And I'm just going to do that on each one. Now you've seen me do this before and I'm sure you're used to doing this. You can do this in your sleep, can't you? Oh, mind you, that would be awful if you could hear my voice in your sleep. Start in the corners, and when you've got less ink on, that's an ideal time to blend all the way around. Now, I'm just going to darken the corners here. And what's funny is the number of times I think, oh, one corner's darker, then I darken the next and the next, and I just end up darkening all 4 corners. Now, when I'd got to this stage, I loved it, but it needed something else, a little bit more detail. And that's when I brought in the lovely Replenish stencil. And look at these gorgeous hearts. So I'm just going to pop that. And I just want it straight-ish. I say ish. And I'm just going to hold it down. You could tape it down, but I'm just going to hold mine down. And again, when I've got most ink, that's when I start in the corners. And it's a nice light touch, this, you're tickling. So think of me, just tickle that stencil. And again, ink up and in the corners, start in those corners. And then gently, gently. Now you can always add more colour here. Remember, you can always add, can't take it away. So let's have a little look. Well, that's looking nice. Needs a little bit more colour. I was a little bit too gentle, but it's better to be able to come in and add a bit more colour. And I'm just going around the design. Let's have another look. Yeah, that looks nice. Now it's a little bit an area there that needs a bit of something, so I'm just going to come in and add a little bit more, especially that heart there. If I can capture that heart, yep, that looks better. Just it was a little bit too much of a blank space. Check all the corners, yeah, and I'm happy with that. So I like the way the colour comes in. Now remember, this is going to be white, so we'll pop the lid on there. And then what we're going to do is, I just want to here with my black fine liner, just where the lead, I want to carry on that lead to there. And I'm not altering the design here, so Tracy's design is still intact, but I've just added a little bit more of the light bulb lead. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of copper. And this is just the Signo, so it gives me a little bit of the copper filament and on that lovely lead. And then with my pen, I I can just add onto those little leaves some little copper berries, just so it all matches, and we've got that lovely cohesive design. Now it could be you want to add some stickles or some of your liquid pearls. I'm not doing, in case I fold, close it too soon when it's not dry. That's the other thing to remember. But what I will do is just add a little bit of copper to these cogs as well. It goes really well. And again, we're often looking for designs for men, and I think this would go as a male card extremely well. Now, to give it a little bit more oomph, I'm thinking pastel pencils. So if I bring these in, we can just add a little bit of highlight, just a little bit of shape. And here I'm just going on shape, just to give a little bit of almost character. And I'm going to add a little bit more white into the light bulb look. I like the way that just makes it look more reflective, like a light bulb. Now again, we'll have a little bit on his ear. A little bit down his tummy. And then just to shape his back there. And then what I'm thinking is we'll add a little bit more yellow just round our light bulbs. And again, to blend the yellow, I tend to come in and just use my white. And I like that blend of the white and the yellow together. And then I just want to add a subtle little bit of shade. So what I'm thinking is the shade would probably start round here, but then come down here and just possibly go up that side a little. And then I'm just going to blend that out. The blending does two things. One, I think it looks better, but the other thing, it just helps to fix it. You don't need a spray fixative because we're not using the pastel for the whole design. But I will just add a little bit of pastel just under the shrubbery there. And then under this one here, and then under our mouse. And again, it just adds that little bit of something. So, a couple of little finishing tricks just before we take that tape off. And when I was looking, I often add my water splats. So I'm going to add some water splats, and I just want to protect this area here. So a little bit of kitchen roll. And what I'm thinking is that will just protect the heart. Now, you could make a mask, but, you know, me being honest, I didn't quite have enough time. So I thought, right, there we go. I've made a mask. So I'm going to add some water splats at the top here, just for that faux bleaching. And then I'm going to turn this round and add some down here. And before this was dry, I added my yellow sparkle Posca. Now, you know I use this a lot. But what was lovely, because the water splats hadn't dried, it interacted because the Posca is water-based. And it gave a lovely effect where the two meet. So I'm going to do the same again. And we'll just turn that round. Just so I don't get too many yellow splatters on my lovely mice. So again, just where that Posca, it'll just react with that water. It'll be nice on some parts without the water, and some parts will get the two together. And also it's protected this area because I want to put a couple of stickers on here so I know that area is nice and dry. So while that's just faux bleaching and having time to dry, I'm going to add, I did wonder, I thought I could draw, now it might be you want to draw a little hanging chain or use the chain of one of our fairy charms or Christmas charms to make the heart as a hanging heart. But I thought I want my heart to be flying. And I thought, what better than have a butterfly? I wondered about adding some wings. You know I like to tell you the way my head works, although sometimes I think I'm possibly telling you too much. But so I thought just a nice butterfly flying at the top there. And to add to my butterfly, your white Signo pen just adds highlights on the butterfly really well. And then I'm just going to add a couple, mouse's nose, little bit on there, look. Just so I've got that combination of the highlights, a little bit with the pen and a little bit with the pastel. And when it came to stickers, so our lovely sentiment stickers, it might be you want to, we've got a lovely sentiment, I love you to the moon and back. That would be perfect for this. But what I did was, now I've put black on my original, but obviously these sentiment stickers come in 3 colours, don't they? So I'm going to go for the white. And we've got a lovely one that says, love this. Now, don't look, Tracy. I'm just going to cut a little bit off. Now, as always, I'll keep the word this because I might need that for something else. So the word love, I'm just going to pop on my scissors and just add under here. And I just think it fits beautifully there. So what I'm going to do now is just bring in my heat tool. So just ignore me for a minute. And what this will do, 2 things. It's going to dry those little splatters that we've put on, but also the low tack tape. I mean, it's Lavinia. It's going to peel off beautifully anyway, but it doesn't do any harm, does it? You know me, belt and braces. The heat tool will just help it so that we know how beautiful it will lift up. And we can just peel it off, look. Take the copy paper out from under there. And there we have our lovely February page. And I've also got myself, I can make a matching card. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope it's given you some ideas. And I hope you'll, if you're going to make your calendar, please share it with me. I love to see what you do. Just tag me in. I mean, Tracy loves it as well. Everybody at Lavinia, we love to see what you're doing. And it's so nice that you're part of our family. So you take care. Enjoy your evening. And guess what? I'll see you again tomorrow. Love and hugs from me. Bye for now.